Hello, this is Miss Malatin from Freedom High School Chemistry. Today we are going to learn the solubility rules and how to apply them. We want to remember that soluble means that the compound will dissolve in water. We're going to be talking about ionic compounds. They're dissolving in water, or insoluble, the ones that will not dissolve in water, will not ionize and break up in water. So this is the hard part. We have two separate categories: soluble with some exceptions and insoluble with some exceptions. So soluble means it will dissolve. Insoluble, it will not. So let's just run through a few of these and how you use these rules. So right here, I have potassium bromide. When we're doing the solubility rules, what you want to look at is the item in either the element or polyatomic ion that is in the anion spot, what is acting like the nonmetal. When it ionizes, what has the negative charge. We have potassium bromide, so let's see if we can find, and right here we see bromides. So under soluble, all bromides and chlorides and iodides except for silver, lead, and mercury. Now the exceptions are when you look at the metal. This metal, potassium, is not silver, lead, or mercury, so this stays true with the soluble. Potassium bromide is soluble. Let's look at another one. Right here we have lead carbonate, lead 2 carbonate. So we're going to look, and I see, remember we want to look at what's in the nonmetal spot, and I'm going over here and I'm seeing all carbonates except for group 1A and ammonium. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look. I have group 1A, and lead is not in there. Lead is a transition metal, so it's not one of the exceptions. So we looked, we found the carbonate, and it's not one of the exceptions, and so lead carbonate is insoluble. Insoluble. Let's look at the next one. We have zinc hydroxide. We're going to look right at the anion spot, and I see hydroxides right here. All hydroxides except group 1A, strontium, barium, and ammonium. Well, zinc is not strontium, barium, or ammonium, and the alkali metals group 1. Group 1A, zinc isn't in there. It's a transition metal, actually. And so zinc is not one of the exceptions. So since hydroxides are on the insoluble side and zinc is not an exception, this is insoluble. So let's look at a couple more of these. It gets easier as we go along. Oh, that's right here. Sodium acetate. Acetate. Let me see, that's a polyatomic ion that we recognize. So let's look under the solubility rules. I've got acetates right here under soluble. So we looked the acetate up, we found it. It's on the soluble side. And there are no exceptions to this one. So, sodium, it doesn't matter what is in the metal spot, this is going to be soluble. A soluble compound. Oops, soluble. Wow, I did a really bad job of that one. So let's do a couple more of these. Let's come up here, and we're going to look at copper 2 sulfide. First thing we do is That's not a polyatomic ion, it's an element. And let's find the sulfides. Oh, all the way over here. The sulfides are in the insoluble. All sulfides except for group 1A, 2A, group 1, group 2, and ammonium. So copper is not in group 1 or 2. It's a transition metal, and it's not ammonium. So this is going to stay in the insoluble side. So insoluble. Let's look right here. We have magnesium phosphate. Phosphate is one of our polyatomic ions. Phosphate. We found PO4, and that is right here. That is in our insoluble side. It says except group 1A and ammonium. Now this one was close because magnesium was in group 2, but it's not group 1, so we are staying in insoluble. Okay, we have here potassium hydroxide. Hydroxide, we're going to look for that. And if you don't know, you just check your solubility rules, OH. And we found it there under hydroxide, except for group 1A, strontium, barium, and ammonium. Ooh, so we got to be careful here, because potassium K is actually in group 1A. So this is an exception. It is not insoluble. That makes it, this is hard, soluble. It is actually a soluble compound. It is an exception to the insolubility rule. All hydroxide except group 1A. So this will be soluble. Oh, right here we have also an exception. We have our hydroxide, OH. It's in the insoluble side, but all hydroxide except group 1A, strontium, barium, and ammonium. This is also not insoluble. That's a double negative. That makes it soluble. This is kind of hard. So let's do one or two more. Silver iodide. Right here, silver and iodine. Iodide, that's a compound. Iodine is a element, excuse me. Iodide, silver iodide, and all chlorine, bromines, and iodides except silver, lead, and mercury. So this is an exception to the solubility rule. So it's soluble except if it's silver iodide. So that is insoluble. Okay. Zinc carbonate. We found our carbonate, all carbonates and phosphates except group 1A and ammonium. Zinc is not in group 1A and it's not ammonia, so this is insoluble. And I think we may have used up all of our examples. So a lot of things were soluble, a lot of things were insoluble. You just have to use your solubility rules so that you can predict your product.